What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a Shudder original movie that just dropped recently. That I read the plot description and it sounded extremely fascinating. And I was reading some of the comments on Shudder and Letterboxd, and it seemed like the reviews were relatively polarizing. But one of the things that I was really interested in is the way people were talking about the movie and its tonal shift. And I love when directors take risks, especially with content like this on Shudder, where it's like, an independent artist making oftentimes a passion project. And to hear that there were drastic tonal shifts and things of that nature made me really excited to watch this movie. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Honey Bunch. Honey Bunch is directed by Madeleine Sims Fewer and Dusty Mancinelli. Diana's husband is taking her to an experimental trauma facility deep in the wilderness, but she can't remember why. As her memories begin to creep back in, so do some unwelcome, sinister truths about her marriage. I was really excited to watch this movie, and what I will say is I was very impressed with this. I really enjoyed it a lot. My biggest qualms with the film come from its runtime. I feel like some of the moments the pacing isn't great, but I do feel like the directors do a really phenomenal job building up tension and suspense and intrigue. And they also do a really good job balancing tone in the film because there are extreme moments of drama and violence. There are also some very hilarious, silly, kind of over-the-top moments. And the best thing that I can say about this movie, one of my favorite directors in the world right now is Yorgos Lanthimos, and there were elements about this movie that kind of reminded me of what I love so much about Yorgos. And I just had a really enjoyable time watching this, and I'm really excited to tell you about it today. I don't want to go into too much detail, but as the plot description states, at the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to two characters, Diana and Homer, and they are traveling in a car together. And we learn very early on that Homer is taking Diana to this facility to help her overcome some traumatic experience that she has gone through. We don't know right out of the gate what that is, and she's having a very difficult time remembering what is happening. But she goes there, and seemingly her husband is very much in love with her. He's very, he talks her up constantly, seems to be there for her, and so she's on board to fix whatever is going on. And they get to this facility, they meet everyone there. It's a little bit uncomfortable, and I think they do a really great job establishing that uncertainty very early on. Of course, when Diana starts these procedures and starts going through these things that are at the facility, things start to get very weird. She starts seeing things, her husband starts acting strange, and memories start creeping in that remind her of what actually occurred. And the entirety of the film is watching the experience of this character be at this facility and what she learns about that traumatic experience. And is her husband really the nice guy that he presents himself to be? So like I said, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And for starters, I want to talk about the two lead performances in this movie are really great. And one of the things I loved about both of the lead performances is that shift in tonality, which can oftentimes be really hard to pull off. I feel like they do such a great job with the dialogue delivery and the chemistry that it just makes it really easy to be on board for whatever's going to happen next. I feel like there were so many moments between both of their performances. I was just incredibly impressed with the way that they were delivering dialogue or the way that they would interact with one another that really kept me on board for the entirety of the runtime. And there's a great cast of characters throughout the entirety of the movie that I feel like really do an excellent job bringing this story to life. I also really loved the setting and the environment of the film. It really drew me in quickly. The very first scene of the movie, you're kind of like, what the hell is going on? And they start taking you deeper into this wilderness. And I just feel like isolating this character to really, because an experience like this where you can't remember things, it's also very isolating. And I think paralleling the setting with the experience of the character worked incredibly well. And because you as the viewer are so uncertain as to what's going on from each and every scene until we get more reveals as the movie goes on, they just did a really nice job with that. I think cinematographically the movie looks really great. There were a ton of moments that I was really impressed, not just with framing but also with editing decisions that made the movie an incredibly mesmerizing watch, which is exactly what you want from something like this. You want it to draw you in. You want it to really keep your attention. And what I liked about this is a lot of people probably would not call it a straightforward horror movie, but I think the real life experience of it all mixed with kind of how fantastical it gets towards the third act, they really do a great job exploring these ideas thematically that I think are so incredibly poignant when it comes to, dealing with trauma with a loved one, other characters introduced, losing a loved one, like all of these topics that can be incredibly heavy and difficult to process are explored here in a way that I think is very satisfying. And I love movies that can have really poignant commentary on just life experience that resonates with you. And I also think the relationship dynamic of the two characters, and when you're in a marriage, the decision of one partner and the other, there's just some really interesting avenues that are explored. And I don't want to dive too heavily into those because it would spoil the movie. But I think once we get the reveal of what's going on, it poses some very interesting conversations. And there's a couple other movies that I've watched over the past couple years that discuss something similar, but I think it's very interesting, and I think the way that they approach it and how they have these discussions is really what makes the movie so interesting. And I think the way that they incorporate horror too, because a lot of times there were a few jump scares in the movie, but there's also a lot of moments of just very strange, absurd things happening on screen and our character reacting to them, but the way they're presented in the frame really makes you as an audience member uncomfortable with what's occurring. And I think that's what made the movie such a satisfying experience, is seeing that reaction and seeing that character be like, what the hell is going on? Like, how do I react to this situation? What am I supposed to do? And that was the best part of the movie for me. The issue, like I said, the biggest issue I had with this movie is I feel like the pacing isn't great. It's an almost 2-hour runtime, and I feel like there's about 25 minutes of this movie they could have cut down and trimmed out. I understand when you're making a passion project and you have a lot of different ideas that it's hard to cut things down or do things differently when you feel like you need to incorporate certain things into the movie. But there were certain decisions that I just feel like if they were trimmed down and streamlined could have made the movie even more impactful than what it was. And a couple of those moments made some of the tonal shifts not as seamless as others, but I still really enjoyed the experience overall. And I think for Shudder, one of the things that I always appreciate about Shudder is they take on really unique projects. And this is something that I probably wouldn't have expected to watch on Shudder. It's very unique. It feels like, the vision that the directors had was incredibly interesting. And I just had a very good time watching this movie. I feel like, especially with how great the lead performances are, just really entertaining overall. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think if you get the opportunity and you have a Shudder subscription, you should definitely check this movie out. So have you seen Honey Bunch? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I think it's very well done. And despite some of the qualms I had with the pacing, I still think it's 100% worth your time to watch. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.